So in the discussion of should people be able to sell their organs for personal profit, I asked Don to kind of present it in a policy manner. What would this look like if you were to implement it? So that way we could, one, discuss what it looks like in its implementation, period, making it more practical, and then the theory of it, period. Just what's it like in a society? What does a society lead to where people can sell their organs for personal profit? So please take the stage.
Hi, everybody. Well, first off, I think we need to just kind of realize the why behind my argument here. Let me ask both of you, do you believe that you own yourself?
You would like to think so. For some reason, I own the baby that floats inside it, but not the kidney.
Yeah. I mean, so I mean, and a big part of that is a big part of my coming to this conclusion is just the idea that if people are going to take the absurd notion that they own the body inside their body, in other words, a pregnant woman, then we're going to continue this on to the not absurd notion that we all have self-ownership. I own Don Lloyd. Now, how does somebody define ownership? Well, I think the best way to define ownership is to ask yourself, can I sell what I own? I own a house. Well, I have shared ownership in a house. Yep. My wife owns part of that house. The bank owns a whole heck of a lot of that house. But there's a process in order to be able to sell that house. Right. Same with a car. Same with, I'm a guitar player. Same with guitars. I own lots of guns. So when I want to sell a gun to my neighbor or buy a gun from my neighbor, I can just do that because we own those things.
Right.
Why can't we, upon our death, sell our organs?
So this is just strictly speaking death.
Well, no, because technically I could donate a kidney and live with one kidney. I could donate a lobe of my liver, or a portion of a lobe of a liver.
You can donate blood, plasma, hair.
Well, I'm not talking about donating. I'm talking about selling.
Selling. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. So, okay, I do want to talk about, because we're going to have to bring this to a practical implementation for the reason that we're going to have to live in a real world where insurance owns us, right? And so all medical decisions and applications come through insurance. And really, we are the highest grossing entities in our country are insurance companies for a reason. So you sell your kidney for your own personal profit. What that's also going to lead to is skyrocketing insurance rates, where now you're going to have to pay hand over foot because you're not as biologically able as you were before. You're more of a liability today, one kidney less than you were yesterday. So it's going to have to impact your insurance rates.
Okay. So let's suppose then that we just focus on the death part.
Okay.
So let's look at some death stats. Right now, only 3 in 1,000 people die in a way that lends itself to organ donation. Okay. 3,500,000 people die in the United States in the last time the records were kept. So I think we might be on 2019 or whatever that was. Okay. So I did some math, and not sure if I'm doing my math correctly, but I came up with 10,500 people.
Okay. Died?
No, that their deaths lended themselves to be able to donate or sell organs.
That was 10,000 what?
10,500.
Gotcha.
Coincidentally, the number of
and that's in 1 year?
That's in 1 year.
Cool. Yep.
Coincidentally, the number of people on the list for liver transplants is 10,500.
Okay. All right.
Around there. Okay.
All right.
So here's another thing that we know. We know that there are, my notes suck. Sorry, guys. How many people are on the list? There's over 100,000 people on a list waiting for an organ.
For like, just in general, like any organ.
Each
Okay.
human being can save 8 lives.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay.
8.
So we know that a death.
So
dead
there's
person
about
can save-
20,000 in buffer there that don't get an organ.
17
math.
people. 17 people die every day on the list waiting for their organs. So the argument is this. Okay. I am an organ donor.
Yep.
They're not going to take my liver, people. I'm telling you. Probably not going to want it. But I don't know how I'll die, but it probably won't be in a state that lends itself for organ donation. Mine will be more lingering than anything. If organ donation is a wonderful thing, but if people can sell them upon death, okay? So let's think about the child that died, the 17-year-old child, 18-year-old child that died in high school, car accident. We all know somebody that it happened to, right?
Right.
Yep.
Generally, those people are really good situations where organ donation is possible.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay. If that mother was asked, will you donate your child's organs? That mother might say something like, well, I want my baby just to not be cut up and just to rest in peace.
Want to be whole.
Okay. But now let's suppose that mother is told, if you decide to sell your child's organs, you're going to be able to get $60,000. That $60,000 will pay for the funeral. It'll do a number
cover
of things.
expenses.
It's not an exorbitant amount of money. So there's a better chance that mother will say yes. I will donate that.
It's almost enough like a surrogacy. Like you usually get I think 50 to 100,000 for a surrogate, but
yeah. So it's that situation is going to throw more organs into the market. Yep. Now, as a capitalist, which I am, what happens when more inventory goes into the market?
You would say the cost goes down, right?
The cost is going to go down, but the inventory goes down. Okay. Because here's the thing. The doctors make millions on organ transplants. The hospitals make billions on organ transplants. The insurance companies pay money because that's what they're there for. But I'm a life and health insurance agent, right? Things are built into the cost of premiums because of all of those things. All of those costs would go down and we wouldn't have 100,000 people waiting for organs. We wouldn't have 17 people dying each day. Maybe we would only have 5,000 people waiting for organs. And maybe we would only have one person dying each day.
So I'd like to address the concept.
It's good.
So addressing the concept first, I want to just ask a preliminary question to get a process in which this would act. So are we saying you can elect to have your body, I guess, dissected in such a way so it can be it's not, I don't want to use, I'm trying to refrain from using the word donated. You want your body dissected and the organs graded to see if they're able to be reused. In a world where then it's deemed marketable, they then can sell them on the market. What does that look like? Is it an auction style? Is it a kidney is this much? Is it gradient based on how healthy or how high quality that
is the government subsidizing this as well? That's the other.
The government. I don't think the government would have to subsidize.
We want the government involved as little as possible. Damn it.
Yeah, I don't think the government would have to subsidize it because I think the insurance companies would actually like this because their costs would go down too because the cost of the overall operation is going to eventually go down because you'll have more doctors who are involved in it. Think about it.
How would more doctors get involved?
Because they would go into the business,
But
right?
it isn't a business. Like,
No,
really,
well, it is.
the person. So let's acknowledge what the skill is. Like, this person's selling a skill. I don't know if you've ever seen the internet video of an egg inside a bottle where a Chinese like physician was able to use super microscopic scissors, go in through the neck of the bottle,
cool stuff. Yeah,
cut the shell. He cuts the shell without piercing the membrane and removes a piece of the shell while the membrane still stays totally intact and perfectly fine. That is a skill. Like that's like Myles Garrett being or Nick Chubb lifting all of the weight in the weight room on his shoulders. A skill none of us possess. That's what makes them unique.
Yeah.
So I think it's an unfair assumption that more of these Nick Chubbs are going to come out of the wall because you can make money. Because now I want to like really address the practicality of it. That's why I wanted to ask what it looks like, because my sister's going to be the first one to jump up and exclaim the insurance situation. Insurance is going to go through the roof because they have to now make up for this additional $60,000 cost. The philosophy of this situation is we are donating our organs strictly out of ignorance because I can't sell them. And the theory would be the second I can sell them, then the hospital that makes billions makes less because that money is now going somewhere else. But that isn't how this is going to play out in practicality. Hospitals have a board of investors. They are never going to take a hit in their profits. So the profit margins, they will stay. So as a board of investors, we are going to say that the profit margins must stay the same because the goal of this year into next year and following the next will always be to beat last year's. We're never allowed to go down.
Okay, fair enough. So, but you're too linear,
right?
Okay. If it costs $300,000 to do a heart transplant, which is about what it costs on the black market right now, it's about $300,000. It might be a little less in the States.
Okay.
Hell, it might be a little more in the States.
I don't know.
But 300 on the black market, it's $300,000 to go. If I wanted to go buy a heart, right now where I'd go buy my heart would be somewhere between Gaza and Israel because those people are desperate and they need money. So
you're not even selling them to Americans. You're literally just now it's international.
He's harvesting them from Gaza and Israel.
So this is
what it is. You're harvesting.
Hang on.
Fucking Van Helsing over here.
This is the black market today. This is what happens today. Okay, there are brokers that are going into those areas and finding poor people and saying, I'm going to get you out of Gaza.
Right, and a way to snuff out that market would be
sell me a kidney.
Yeah,
right. So what would happen is, let's suppose that because there are more transplants happening, the price would go, the cost would go down as well. The cost, because that's normal capitalism. The cost would go down. So if it costs $300,000 to do one, but now we're doing 30 in a year, maybe now it goes down to 200,000 or 150. So the insurance companies are still paying less. The hospitals are still making more because they're doing more, but they're making more. Think about the LASIK eye surgery. Okay, when LASIK eye surgery really started to become a popular thing, and this is why eye doctors aren't covered through major medical; they're covered through eye insurance, which is a completely different ballgame. This is stuff
and dentistry, ear, nose doctors.
And this is the business that I'm in. That's the business that I'm in. I sell eye insurance and so forth. LASIK used to be insanely expensive. Now you clip coupons out of the Sunday newspaper. If you
what was the part of the cost of LASIK, the actual machinery in which you were the laser to correct your eye, and then through the ability to be able to do that more, it got cheaper.
More and more, the equipment got less expensive. More and more doctors got into the business of doing it because they saw that as a good business skill to have, and so they were able to do it. If right now we have it was an active.
Let's just say I want to see your thoughts on this theory.
Okay.
If you were to make more football teams in the NFL and it goes from 32 to 64, that does not mean there are going to be more Nick Chubbs. That just means that one Nick Chubb is just that much more special. You're going to have even the standard of what it means to be the running back of 32 teams. That standard just saturated to half.
Well, yeah, of
so
course.
Here's one of the comments I wanted to make was
I think more I as much as I despise the CDC and the WHO, and I think they're just pathological liars, and I think that they're political hacks. Our doctors are good people that want to help, and I think that people that would normally go into one discipline would say, "Well, hell, if I can go into the organ transplant business."
So let me give you a metaphor.
I think they would
like an analogy. There was a kid that went to our high school, a kid my age. His brother was 3 years younger than me. Okay. And when I'm going through, we did football. I was never at breakfast unless we were there at 5 a.m. for football. Going through the breakfast line, and this kid looks at me and he says, "My mom just had another baby because we were getting free lunches before, but now we can get free breakfasts." And whether or not that's the reality of why they brought life into this world, that's what this kid's perception of that's what's being communicated at home.
Sure.
Enough for this. That's what this kid is projecting.
And that's in our town.
And this kid is saying that my mom just had another baby to have just free breakfast. When I say those things, it's alarmist, it's laughable. At the same time, it resonates with you, as the heart of your point is, because we know the nature of America getting money, what incentivizes us to action. Mm-hmm. So it seems natural that money would incentivize even something as crazy as having an unnecessary baby. That being said, I still think there is a major theoretical assumption that more doctors are going to come out of the woodwork as demand increases. We only have so many sophisticated people. I also think we have a system that's consciously created to make us dumber and weaker.
Well, we do. Yeah. So our educational system has completely collapsed. There's no question about it. We do need to fix that.
So,
right?
So that being said,
we pull people from Europe, from Southeast Asia, from the Middle East, that are very brilliant people that are able to do this work. Why not, instead of having them working on the black market, which is a massive market for organ selling and transplanting and taking advantage of the poor people in Gaza and in Israel.
Lucrative, and it always will be more lucrative.
It doesn't have to be. We can do it here.
But again, you just said $300,000, right?
It's going to drop.
In a world
it would drop here. But I mean, they get to live outside of the bombs. They get to live where I mean, seriously, freedom and liberty, sort of.
Well, so wait, are you saying we're going to be immigrating people?
Well, we do it every day. We immigrate docs every day.
So we're just going to.
When was the last time when was the last time you went to an American doctor?
Sure, that's a great point.
Every day.
I take that back.
Every day.
I take that. They're all Americans, because once you come to America, you're an American.
Yes.
When was the last time you had
conventionally white doctor,
a conventional Northern European redneck doctor? When was the last time?
And they're out there.
Almost
they're
never in my life.
You're probably not finding them in Cleveland, but they're probably in the more rural communities. They're out there.
There was plenty that went to Miami and Toledo.
I had one doctor named Smith. The rest of them were Ahmed and Patel. And I have
I trust him more because of that name.
Of course I do.
So I want to pick at your owning topic here. So if you have the ability to own, and you have ownership of your, or if you have ownership of the ability to be able to sell, because it's not. I think we own our organs.
I own my body. I own my body.
And I think you've always owned your body. If I were to come in here and steal your kidney, well, I'm stealing from you.
You are,
because of that ownership.
Well, actually, you're committing a crime, a violent crime, because you're stabbing me.
Correct. Yep. But again, I'm stealing, and it's stealing something because you have ownership of it. I think it's more apt to think you have the right to sell. You have the ability to be able to sell within an open regulated market, that like a marketplace. If you're able to sell and you're able to own it, you're probably able to lease it, throw it in as collateral. I could easily see a scenario where you have, well, hey, you're down on your mortgage payment and you're behind on some medical bills here. How about we collateralize your kidney?
Well, you have to be careful because Americans suck at healthy.
Yep.
Exactly. So what do you do? Like when they say universal basic health care, when they're talking about universal health care,
run. When they say that, run, people, because it's going to suck.
The major downside to that is if 80% of America's medical expenses are fat related, Billie Eilish, then the reality
come on.
And then again,
gotta call a spade here.
Exactly. As the Richmond, north of Richmond said, I don't want to have to pay for your face full of Rolos and chocolate cookies.
Yeah.
So that's a major problem too, is there's going to be people that want to throw themselves. So
let me ask you, well, don't you think that if someone said, if someone knew that he could eventually sell his organs and not have to buy life insurance, because as a life insurance agent, I guarantee you the companies that I represent in life insurance would hate this idea, because they're like, well, what would be the benefit of them buying life insurance if they can just give up their kidneys?
And that's the reality.
Right. That is a reality.
And insurance owns us.
Insurance does own us in that sense. However, don't you think people, if they're thinking, okay, I'm poor, I can't afford life insurance premiums, if I take care of my body, then my organs will be worth something to my family?
I don't know if they're going to think about it that way. I'm not, because you have you own a house. Let's say the poor people that have,
Can I ask you a question? Wife, kids, because I don't know your story.
Wife.
Got a wife. No kids yet.
No kids.
I think about all of those things, like every little possible thing that I can think of to send down to posterity. I think of.
But you're not poor. You're not poor. You're not living in poverty. You're not living.
I'm Brecksville poor,
and you're not conventionally.
Right? I got four kids. Some are in college. My 19-year-old has more money in his bank account than I do because I pay a mortgage.
But you're not conventionally poor.
Of course,
so that's not.
No, I'm not.
So you're thinking about things maybe a little bit differently than your average.
That's true.
Person that is.
But I grew up poor. I grew up pretty poor.
Okay.
Like we didn't have money or food or things like that. We had long sticks of cheese that said cheese.
Were you when you were eating your long sticks of cheese? Were you worried about what your kidneys were doing and how your liver was acting?
No, I never worried about my kidneys because it
was government cheese.
I didn't give a But I think that if we're able to start changing the attitude of Americans, then it's possible that
I don't know. I don't see selling your organs at death is the way to go about doing that.
I think you're right.
Can it help to a certain, I think the people who care are the ones that already care.
It's going to reach out to.
It's
going to hit some people, but then again, those people still have to be the 1 in 3 in 1,000, because that's the other thing.
So I just want to make, again, keeping this a grounded theory. What does it look like? You elect to have your body examined. They hack it up to see the health of it. And you've got too fatty of a heart. You were a drunk, so your liver's trashed. Like, do they pick and choose things that are moderate?
Yeah.
They get rid of those that can't be used. And so are there worlds where you've got somebody who is elected to have their body examined, because you're not donating it, you're having your body examined. They're hacked up to no avail. And now, I feel like you're going to have people disincentivized because, well, even if they were on the cusp, I don't want to have my body diced up and then just thrown away. Or so I just want to first, before we move on,
and on that,
what does it look like? Like, what does this system look like? You donate your body. then what?
We are not donating anything.
Right.
We've got to get out of this donating thing. The reason we have blood shortages is because we donate blood.
Right.
Like, let's stop donating blood and let's start selling blood and get rid of blood shortages. And then we wouldn't have blood shortages.
But then the hospital's profit margins would be cut into, and they'd have something.
Excuse me. I don't care about the hospitals. Why is everybody so worried about? I know you're not worried about the hospitals, but why are people worried about the hospitals? Like,
because healthcare, playing devil's advocate, they'd say because healthcare currently is unaffordable. This is going to make it more unaffordable.
So to me, this sounds like a political issue where Congress, who wrote the organ law, is bought and paid for by all of these other organizations.
Well, there's only one country in the world that actually sells organs that's
Iran does a great job.
That's the only one, and that's would you call Iran maybe a well-run country government?
No.
So I don't know if that's
not. Of course not. But they figured it out.
Yeah, well, they figured it out because they had no other options, and they're not a well-run country
because no one's willing to work with Iran anyway. Yep. Right? I mean, we've all watched the Grey's Anatomy and all that stuff where a patient is in Grey's Anatomy was in Chicago. So a patient died in Florida and we need to get their heart on ice, and they put it in a little ice bucket and they do this thing. And that wouldn't have to happen.
Well, it would, depending on the nature of the type of surgery.
Of course, yeah.
Your last kidney is failing,
and everybody still has to match and all those things because there's matching and all that stuff. But in a city like Chicago, where people are dying all the time because they just shoot each other, right? There's going to be.
So I want to.
Hold on. You bring a really good point here.
Inventory is going to be available.
That. I could easily see a scenario where you have some seedy underbellies that are very much you go into some bad gambling debt, you go into some different types of debt, and you're in a bad spot.
So you kill yourself or your family.
Hey, how about you off yourself here? I can unload the debt. You get your mom gets a.
That's called the black market. So
it's not that wouldn't be the black market. That would be that's out.
You'd still have to have a broker who would do it because
now the broker would have different interests
and now like a real estate broker, now somebody else has their hands in what would be your wife's profit
and the ownership of what you have. You can lease your in this scenario you would be able to lease your organs upon death. Now it's you to be used as collateral. And once you open that floodgate, I think the reason we don't sell anything outside of maybe hair, I think you can sell your hair.
Yeah, you can. You can. So all right. So I want to define what a right is.
Okay.
I think that's where we need to go.
Okay.
First. Okay. A right is something that exists simultaneously among people.
All right.
It does not confer an obligation upon anybody else.
Okay.
And it does not violate the rights of anybody else.
Okay.
That is what a right is.
Yep.
So if I have self-ownership, I should be able to sell my organs under any pretense that I choose to. And the reason
to that.
Right. Yeah. And if we're going to live in a country that is moving toward we can kill babies up until the moment of birth because they think that it's their right, then I think that I should have a right to every part of my body.
Okay. Well, so you own your house. Do you have a right to own your house?
I do have a right to own my house. Yeah.
Can you use your house as collateral?
I can.
Yep. Can someone take your house away if you don't uphold your end of the bargain?
Yes.
Yes. Given that, let's replace your house with your liver. You can do the same thing, and there's incentive for someone to be able to get you in a position.
Put my children.
Can you take the kidney
I
back?
would not put my children under the roof of my liver. I'll tell you that right now.
But we're not talking about you are one person. Maybe
that was
you
a
are
metaphor.
Yeah, I understand. But you can't. But you have ownership of. You can't put your kids under your gun, and you have ownership of that as well. And can you not use that as collateral for all sorts of different things.
Well, my guns aren't that expensive.
Yeah. Well, you know, you can have collateral for a cheeseburger.
My best gun is $2,000.
But you see where I'm going though, right? If we allow the ability to be able to sell organs outside of hair.
I think we would start upon it would be something that would start upon death, right? Just to bolster the inventory. There's an old adage that if Congress controlled the desert, in 2 years there'd be no sand.
Okay.
Because
that
they
all
destroy
being
the
said,
inventory.
That being said, one of the things that I want to address is, okay, there's this conflict between insurance and people profiting, this balance between those that are the beneficiaries of this new system and those that aren't. You had made the comment, as I totally agree with, but laughably, we make the comment, if somebody brings up universal basic income, you must run. But also you acknowledge that we are pigeonholed by what stalemates the situation is insurance. So I would have to make the claim, or I would inquire, does that mean that you'd be willing to concede that this system must come in tandem with the elimination of insurance, which would be a universal healthcare system? Because as long as we need insurance to be able to afford just to have a cough and go to a checkup, let alone get my organs hacked, then insurance is going to right this wrong immediately, and we'll never be able to actually profit off of this. And in fact, they're going to be so pissed that we tried to profit and pull this little maneuver that we're going to be deeper in a hole, because that's how this system works.
Or they'd set it at such a low flat rate. Because you're hearing your kidneys go for what, 75, 100,000, like ridiculous amounts of money. Now the insurance companies go, sorry, it's only $5,000.
So good luck.
And it's every kidney, $5,000.
And now the person who lives in Garfield that would have just been on a list and been next in line, and the system they paid into would have liaison them through the whole situation. Now they can't even compete in the bidding war, because that's what it turns into.
Yeah. So as soon as we get to a universal healthcare insurance plan, which we won't, because I think our country will collapse and reset before we get there. 12 months, by the way.
Okay.
Well, almost 12. It's a little less than 12 months.
All right.
When is that? What is our election date?
Yeah, November.
What is the first
11
Tuesday?
11 months and 2 weeks.
What's the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November?
But see, Don's still under the juvenile assumption that we're gonna have an election. I can't wait until you all come and you're awakened to the fact that they declare martial law and we don't even have an election.
I think it's gonna be like one party's gonna have an election. November 5th.
Yeah, so 11 months and a couple
I don't
weeks,
necessarily know that
weeks,
there's going to be an election per se, but they'll be voting.
Yeah,
they'll be voting. Universal healthcare will destroy it, because universal healthcare drives the cost of everything up. And it drives the waiting list up. So here we are with our semi-universal healthcare that we have in the United States right now, and we have a list of 100,000 people waiting for
organs,
and 17 people dying every day. Now that's 6,500 people a year or something like that are dying. It's not a tremendous amount of people.
No, and it's hard to say if that's someone who needs an organ. Well, I found out both my kidneys are failing tomorrow.
Yeah,
and I'm
right,
better than a year.
So from a kidneys, and kidneys are the biggest one.
Oh yeah,
there's no question about it. So you have one bad kidney, but eventually that second kidney is going to start to.
Well, do we encourage more organ donorship? Like just encouraging the organ donor?
Yeah,
program.
Right now all we can do. Organ donorship is something
amazing.
that should be.
And you should be doing it.
Yeah, you should do it. It's like charity. It should be
not even that. It's beyond charity.
Wonderful. Oh yeah, you're saving lives.
What you
no
do
question.
to another family,
I am
extending life and enhancing life, a blind person can see, or somebody gets to have their grandmother for 10 more years. Those things are invaluable. That isn't even a kind thing. It is invaluable. Right. Now, I do want to kind of start bringing this to a close. Allison, not to interrupt, but I am curious, do you have a major criticism that I'm missing? because I think we could benefit from. She had a list, and I tried remembering them. Go to Brian.
Did you bring
Brian
that list with you?
He's got a microphone. The reason I'm doing that is because Don, you and I talking about this, I didn't see a single problem in it. I was head over heels. You solved the world.
The details. No, the details are.
The devil is in the details.
So I want. What are some true criticisms you have of this system?
Well, I think initially you guys just don't understand the system. So the process that would go into testing and making sure you're a match and all that stuff. Like the black market is not doing that. They're scamming people for organs and just putting organs in, whether you're a match or not.
Now, if you are a match, it doesn't necessarily mean the organ will take at all. Is that correct?
Yeah, that on top of it.
So you still need to be a 90% match with someone to get an organ, and if they're not, sometimes they just put it in because you're sick, but hope for the best. So that plays a role into this, but also the system of getting doctors is not that easy.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
So I'm a pharmacist, and I wanted to go into mental health, and I said, I'm going to apply for a residency in mental health and hope that I match. But I also applied for emergency medicine residencies in case all of the psych ones filled. So whether doctors want to go into transplant or not, that doesn't mean they're going to get into it. And the physician residencies are not going to increase just because transplant increases. And pulling them from other countries, they still have to go through our training. So
let me ask you a question. So you're saying that if there are all of these, let's suppose that the way the United States sets it up, that they do a really good job with matching, they do a really good job with getting the inventory up because they're convincing people to sell their organs, that the hospitals still wouldn't hire more physicians to do the work, or new private hospitals wouldn't go be built in. And
it's not that they wouldn't build them, they wouldn't have doctors to hire. The match system for residencies, they'll say this is not a true.
You wouldn't. Let's
and that's based on academics and skill and all those things.
Yeah,
well,
so
here's
okay. Into them and stuff.
That's fair. So
they're not going to increase.
Yeah. So that would certainly lag, but eventually I think that would start to catch up.
And I think it would look real bad.
We're getting better and better at doing more and more awesome.
But I think it's with this particular scenario too. You open the floodgates, and that's when the most intense demand happens.
Right.
Sure.
So you wouldn't be able to spool up quick enough to actually take it. I hate to say take advantage, but definitely, I mean, that's kind of part of the process here. Take advantage of the willing inventory that you have initially.
I think that if something like this were to happen, which it's not going to, because our politicians and our doctors love their God complex that they own, and they're never going to give it up. They won't. They'll never give it up until November 5th.
Right.
2024. So then
until the world.
Well, it'll be November 6th. You gotta give the results a chance.
November 5th, everything changes. But that rollout, I think, would. I mean, we're presuming. I'm not.
That's what I was going to say.
See, you know what I mean?
So remember when I brought up.
Let me just fix, because I think as we throw our arguments against, which is good because that helps flesh out the problems. We're supposing that the worst case scenario is going to happen and that everybody's a freaking moron. I think that the rollout would be a very logical standard rollout.
And so I brought up that example where there's a person giving birth to a life just to get free breakfast at school, whether that's the fact of this scenario or not. Somebody said that. Yeah. So let's agree. When I say that, it doesn't seem too outlandish.
It's not outlandish.
That's the spirit of America.
Yeah.
Capitalize as much as you can. That being said, I think we're taking a major assumption that nature, that thread that we find in even giving birth, let alone professional endeavors, hobbies, all these things we choose, kind of lead towards a more prosperous end. We want to succeed at the end of it. So because of that, it seems only natural that there would be a major increase in people willing to donate organs, because money is the driver in this world for everything. But that all being said, this world is a weird, finicky world, and we have to acknowledge, true or false, that's still a major assumption. We don't know how it plays out. We're presuming that it leads to an increase in demand, but we can't really tell. The only thing we're leaning on that leads to that is that we're driven by money in every other sector. So of course, money would drive us in this. But real quick, what was you were going to address one other thing.
And the other aspect of this is probably the increase in suicides that are going to come with this.
And you brought that up.
I did.
Fathers and parents wanting to get their families out of debt. They're going to commit suicide. That pulls away their life insurance. That null and voids it. They're not getting
it does not. It does
huge.
No, that is incorrect. It does not. It only.
No, if you kill yourself.
No. It does not. It does not.
I think we're talking to a life insurance broker here.
Nope. Yeah. No. We're talking. Yeah.
So what happens?
First 2 years of life insurance, if the person commits suicide, there's no payout. After 2 years, there is a payout on almost every policy written in the United States.
Oh, okay. So you got to wait 2 years.
It's a 2-year thing.
Some might be a little longer. Some might be a little shorter. Just depends on the policy. So
now,
some guaranteed issue life insurance will require a 5-year, I believe.
Okay.
But just standard.
Now what would be the investigation of that suicide? I'm assuming if it's pre-planned for the express purpose of getting life insurance, it's probably going to be void of the life insurance.
It would void the life insurance, and the policyholder or the estate would be given all of the premium back, less interest.
Okay, so even if there's a divide, regardless.
I think your sister had more.
Please, yeah.
On the.
Did you? Even if you commit suicide for this, which this gets brought up a lot in my field because veterans will talk about wanting to and then want to lose their insurance. Most of them are not going to be able to give their organs.
Right.
Correct? So now they now killed themselves for no reason.
Yeah. So now they've killed themselves and there's no benefit.
Well, so let's educate people, and this is not something that one day we go from, okay, this is the last donation day. Now it's sell them if you got them. Right? It would have to be a rollout. It would have to be a plan. It would have to be something that people.
You probably have to transition.
Would
people.
Learn. Yes.
You go into a lottery system to be able to sell your organs.
Right. Yeah. And because the system could very well be inundated with organs. But we don't know if they're good because it's still not. I think that the stat of 1 in what do we say? 3 in 1,000, 3 out of 1,000 deaths. I don't know that number is going to change. Right. So. That's probably because that's just based on the way people die. People don't want to die. I don't think you're going to find a whole lot of people that are going to say, well, I'm just going to kill myself so I can sell my organs.
You're totally going to. If your
there may be murders.
If your assumption is going to be there's going to be more people who don't donate are going to be willing to let their organs be hacked up because of the financial incentive, then you also have to take on the assumption that there's going to be people that are throwing themselves into that world through suicide.
Maybe. Yeah, but
because if you're going to say money is the driver, you can't say money's driving this action, but not this. Money either drives totally or it doesn't.
The money, I don't think the money would be that incredible. I think that it would be
$60,000, as you put it, would be life-changing to many. That's an annual salary or 2 annual salaries.
20,000 buries the person. So now we're down to 40.
Right.
Right. But then the estate's going to have debt.
So, but again, that's 40. That's an annual salary put towards the estate that you didn't have before. So let's bring it to a close. Okay. I'm going to do my wrapping thoughts, pass it off to Don, David, and then maybe if the table wants to Allison, you could give your closing comments and close this thing down because I think you had some good points. All right, my wrapping thought is going to be this: One, there's clearly going to be an increase in suicides if money's going to be the driver here. But I also do think money being a driver in all other sectors is a major assumption that it would actually affect this realm. I think it's a safe assumption, but in creating policy for a future that we don't know, we have to at least acknowledge that it's an assumption. That also being said, Don threw out a bunch of numbers. Among them was like the increase of, let's say, 100,000 more surgeries. To assume that that employment demand can be met is difficult to say it's practical, only because I've seen the hurdles it takes to get to the end of the road and be classified an incompetent or unqualified doctor. There's plenty of them that did the whole thing, climbed all the rungs, did the whole monkey bars, made it to the end, and they were like, you're still a shitty doctor compared to all the doctors. So because it goes back to my NFL example, because you've added more NFL teams doesn't mean you're going to get more Nick Chubbs. It just means that there's less Nick Chubbs in the pool of people that you're talking about when it comes to football players. So I want to leave my thought on this. As somebody who's seen firsthand how impactful organ donation is to a family, extending a family's life, this is invaluable. I think you should be donating it. The crime of our dialogue is the word donate. You are giving something that is you, that is yours, away for free. You open it up with a great abortion. I mean, the fact that I can kill the thing inside of me, but I don't own my kidney, is that there is a severe lack of logic there. I do see this being mine. I should be the one to profit from it. But at the same time, we don't even let hookers do that. So that it goes grander than your personal autonomy. And sometimes policies need to get in the way for the greater being of humanity and for your safety and society's safety. So that all being said, I want to say donate your organs. It's a huge, important thing to do. And up until you can sell them, still involve yourself in this market. Hopefully one day you can capitalize on it. At the same time, I am seeing that this is an uphill battle, a system built against that. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of hurdles that make it impractical. And until those are conquered, I don't know if we can live in that world. So to Don.
Do you think that if we're able to sell our organs, we'd save more lives? Yes or no?
Totally.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Would we save more lives if we could sell our organs? Yes or no? Brian.
Yes.
Yes.
Doug.
Doug.
I'd have to go with maybe like
He loves Allison. That's why.
a lot of good arguments.
Okay, so
I was one way, and then I pulled into the center. It's like everyone made good arguments.
all right, so we've had good arguments. So the reality is we are in a system that does not lend itself to have individual rights. That's what America has become. That's where we are.
Right.
It has this argument. We keep going back to the system.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about how great it would be if we could do these things. We're talking about the system won't let us. The system won't let us. Maybe it's time to change the system.
Ooh.
Maybe it's time to say, let's go back to being a republic. Let's stop faking this whole democracy.
Right.
Let's start loving the premise of individual rights, where all of us have a right to ourselves, to our family, and to our own posterity. Because until we do that, everything else is total BS.
I can agree with.
All
right.
right.
That being said, rapid thoughts, David.
I could easily see this scenario devolving into a harvest, almost like farming for the poor in the benefit of the rich. And as well as this policy being inflationary in just in general, everyone has access to, let's call it $5,000 to $70,000 of quote unquote credit through their organs through one way or another. That's by definition inflationary. So you just get inflation just by having this policy, flip that switch. So I'm not for it. I think there's a reason why we can only sell our hair, and that's about it. And it could definitely lead to just too many unattended negative consequences. While the positives are absolutely incredible, it increase life, quality of life, and just make things significantly better for those who receive. It's those who give that can be taken advantage of and be put in a position to where now their life is done for the benefit of others.
That's a perfectly presented point. All right, to the table. Brian, Allison, any wrapping thoughts?
I agree with David. I think you said it very well.
What, do you have any closing thoughts? And where do you disagree on us? In closing.
I think that this is going to lead to a lot more deaths by suicide, which may or may not cancel out the deaths or the lives that are going to live on with the transplants. I think that the people that are going to donate or give their organs are people that want to help other people live on. So, like, I'm going to be an organ donor because I want people to live. And I'm not using my organs anymore, so they can have them. And I don't really need the money to entice that, but I don't think being able to get money is going to save anything. I think it's going to increase the costs of a lot of things. You see it with drugs and new drugs that come to market. Just because they can be made cheaper doesn't mean that the health system's going to make it cheaper. They'll probably still make it expensive, so it's not going to come out winning. So we should just try and entice people to be good people.
I love that.
Very well put. All right.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Rethink Tank Live. Join us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. streaming across the platforms on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. We do our best to promote user engagement, and we want you involved. So be sure to bring your perspective live so we can get you in the dialogue. See you then.